What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. It's finally summer, so that means I'll be driving this car a lot more than I have been previously over the winter and spring months. But having said that, these cars now, they're edging on for 10 years old. Well, this car is 10 years old. And as with any 10-year-old Porsche Cayman or Boxster 981, things can start to go wrong, parts can start to fail. So in this video, I'm going to show you 8 things that can potentially go wrong with a Porsche Boxster 981. And if you're looking to buy one of these, then hopefully this video helps you in buying that car and making sure that you know what to look for when you're going to view the car. Actually, make that 9 things. Let's do business. Now, one of the first things you should check if the car does have the sports exhaust is the sports exhaust baffles. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we come under here, it's probably easier if I just hold it. You can see this baffle here. Now this can kind of get seized and I can push it up and down, but if you're hearing like a lot of squeaking noises and it's very difficult to push up and down, like this one is, it generally means that the baffle is seizing up. Also, you'll hear these noises when starting and turning off the engine. And if that happens, you're looking at an expensive replacement exhaust, well over £2,000 to be supplied and fitted. So the next thing you need to check may be quite difficult to maneuver depending on where you are, because you need to kind of get under the vehicle to check for any coolant leaks. Now, coolant leaks on these cars, unfortunately, they are becoming more common. It's a 10-year-old car, like I say, so it's generally just a gasket that needs to be replaced, but obviously it is quite labor intensive to get to that gasket. So what you need to do is crawl underneath and just check to make sure that there are no evidence of dried up coolant around this particular area that I'm showing you on screen now. If you do see that, it generally means that at some point there has been a coolant leak, and it will probably happen again when you buy the car. So factor that into your price, maybe negotiate a better price with the dealer. So this next one's quite an easy fix, in fact. As with all Porsches I've found over the years, they are prone to rattles and vibrations. There are 2 main areas on this car that I've found that give off horrible vibrations. This area right here, so it's like a black panel here. So what I'd advise you to do is take this off, maybe put some dyno mat, soundproofing material, or just sort of fabric padding on the underneath of here. I mean, you can just hear when I'm tapping on that, it's already giving off a horrible vibration. And on the other side of the car, I'll show you exactly what the problem is here. It's not such a problem, as I say, it's just really annoying. And this is something, I need to sort that out. This belt buckle bashes a lot off here. So just in this area here, maybe put some like double-sided sticky felt. It's on my list of things to do, but 2 things that can actually be sorted without too much issue. So as we come on to the front of the car, through this area here, you will see the condensers. It's very important that you check the condition of these condensers. So as we go through this gap here, shine a torch on if you need to, but as you can see here, this condenser, it does have a little bit of marks on a few little areas, but nothing to worry about seriously. The condensers on these cars will probably last you about 6 or 7 years, so check the paperwork to see if there's any evidence of the condensers being changed. If not, then probably factor it in to the cost of the vehicle. You will probably need to change them at some point. If you want to prevent damage, you can buy one of these Zunsport kits. This is a grill kit which is due to go on this car. I just haven't had the chance to put it on yet. But effectively, it's just like 3 pieces of mesh which cover this, and it stops any of the stones damaging the condensers. I'll try and put the link to this kit in the description if I can find it. Thankfully, there are no IMS issues with the 981 range. Bore scoring, I'm not saying that doesn't exist in the 981s because I have heard of it, but it's going to be far less common. If you don't know what I'm talking about with regards to bore scoring and IMS, then just forget I even mentioned this part, because I don't want to open a big can of worms. Anybody who owns a 986, 996, 981, 987 and 997 will know all about the IMS and bore scoring issues. So don't worry about that if you're thinking about buying a 981 variant. Right, I've got some items here which I believe are a must when owning one of these cars, because just like other Porsches from the previous generations, they do still have their battery issues if you don't look after the battery properly. And let's face it, 9 times out of 10, people have got busy lives and they just forget to do things. They just forget to take proper care of the battery. So these 2 items that I'm going to show you now will get you out of jail. First of all, what you'll probably find is that if the battery is completely drained, this front area here will not open at all. There is no manual release on this one, unfortunately. So you do need an electric charge. So what I would say is use this here in the fuse box. There is a little pull-out tab where you can stick one end on the tab, one end on the chassis of the vehicle. Turn it on and this will get power to the car, and it will allow you to open up the front with a simple click. And once you're in, the battery's still going to be as dead as a dodo, so you can't drive it. Use one of these C-Tek chargers, charge the car up overnight, generally 24 to 48 hours will allow the battery to charge, and then you'll be on your way again. I'm going to put links to these in the description below the video. Now you can also use these Noco boost kits to give the car a jump start. No longer do you need to carry these huge battery packs around like everybody used to have in the 90s and early 2000s. This will start this car just as well. So this is something that I've just noticed actually, and I don't have a great deal of information about it, but looking at the headlight, you can see it looks like sort of some of the lacquer is peeling off the top of it. It's not peeling off anywhere else on the headlight, even though we do have a few marks, a few battle scars. Like I say, it is 10 years old, so you would expect that. But we've got a little bit of lacquer peeling away and it's quite flat at the very top end here. Coming over to the other side, it almost looks like it's going to start doing the same there as well. It's like a little bit crusty at the top there. So I think probably these headlights would benefit from a full sort of light sanding. There's certain processes that you can do which are relatively cheap to bring the headlights back to life. They don't look too bad when standing a few feet away, but obviously when you get a little bit closer you can start to notice the issue, and it just lets the headlight down just a little bit. So there are a couple of things to be aware of when actually driving the car. First of all, on the 981 Boxster in Cayman, the throttle response I believe is personally quite poor. This car doesn't have the Sport Chrono package, and I believe the throttle response is a little bit better on the Sport Chrono package, but with cars without the Sport Chrono package, which do have the Sports button, then I would recommend using it in the sports mode all the time because you'll get a better throttle response. The throttle response in standard mode is just really poor, and because of that, what I've done is I've added on a kit called the Race Chip XLR, and that is like a throttle response kit, or a pedal commander as it's also known. There might be a sprint booster is another term for it as well, I believe. But without one of these kits, then I believe the throttle response is really poor, so it's just something to be aware of. That's my personal opinion. You might not find that. You might find that the throttle response is perfect and adequate for your specific needs and circumstances. So that's one of the things that you need to be aware of. Also, if you're in sport mode, and this is probably something that's not going to happen too often, but if you're in second and then you need to downshift to number 1, then you'll probably find that the downshift is really quite rough. As I say, the amount of times you would carry that out in the real world are probably next to none. There's no fix for this. I have researched it as much as I can online. I can't find any information about what's causing it, but I have found a lot of information to say that a lot of other people are experiencing it. So don't worry about it. It'll happen, but it's not going to affect your drive or anything like that. So just bear that in mind as well. Oh, there's one more thing, and it is that when the brakes are warmed up and you're coming to like a stop, it's say traffic lights or zebra crossing or something like that, the brakes will squeal like mad. Now this is really frustrating, and I had it with my 991s as well. The amount of times I've spoken to dealers about this, and they've all said the same thing, that it's just a characteristic of the braking system. I find it a little bit embarrassing when I'm pulling up at a set of traffic lights or a zebra crossing and there's people watching the car. You know, it looks like quite a nice high-end car, and then you're getting this stupid brake squeal from it. You don't see that with Ferraris or Lamborghinis. Maybe what I do plan to do is just get the brake pads out, put a bit of copper grease on the back side of them. Hopefully that might help. Failing that, I might upgrade the brakes to a better set. Hopefully that might also help as well. So those are three real things to think about when actually doing a test drive of the car. Obviously, if you've got any noises that shouldn't be there from like the suspension, any knocks or bangs or clunks, then speak to the dealer about that. It should be fixed before you actually take ownership of the car. And also any untoward noises from the engine as well. Get that seen to, get the dealer to look at it, investigate what the issue is there before you take ownership. So the final thing I'm going to show you is super important. I'm going to show you how to check the genuine mileage of a Porsche 981. Now unfortunately, if you want to be able to carry this function out, you do need to spend a little bit of money on this tool here. There are a few tools out there that cover Porsches, but they don't all cover this particular function. So I'll pop the link to this kit in the description below. So what we're going to do is with the ignition on, we're going to go into diagnostics. We're going to select our specific model. So we'll go vehicle select, and we're going to search for the 981 Cayman and Boxster. Go to control unit, go to the engine system, go down to view data, go to general, and we need to find something called the mileage. It might be displayed in a different way on your specific vehicle. It could be something like total distance traveled. This one is what we need to look at here, mileage. I'm just going to pop that ignition back on there. So we go mileage, and we go F1. And it's telling us here 103,421 kilometers. That is the distances traveled in kilometers. If we convert that to miles, it's going to be pretty much the same as that. There can be some differences over time, like a few miles can be, there can be small discrepancies, but generally this is going to be correct. Now, when somebody tries to change the mileage of your Porsche, they'll generally change it on the cluster here, okay? It doesn't always change, they don't change it on the ECU generally. This tool reads the ECU mileage, okay? So it's reading it from the ECU, not the cluster. So if there was any difference, say there was like 3,000-4,000 miles difference, then you know that the vehicle is probably being clocked. And it's a good indication that you should just be walking away from that vehicle, because if you're getting ripped off, then somebody's going to assume that you're ripping them off in a few years' time as well when you come to sell it on. So as I say though, I'll pop this kit in the description. It's good for all of your systems as well. You know, it'll diagnose a load of faults, and it'll do service resets and a load of other special service functions. All right. So yeah, I'll pop the link to this in the description.